Fear is inevitable. We all feel it. The question isn't whether we'll encounter fear, it's how we'll respond when we do. Fear can cripple you. It can stop you from achieving your potential, from taking risks, or even from being the man you know you can be. But what if I told you that you could conquer fear, not by avoiding it, but by embracing it? The Stoics knew this well. In today's video, we're diving deep into the Stoic guide to overcoming fear. We'll break down Stoic principles and how they can help you transform fear into a tool for strength, clarity, and action. By the end of this video, you'll have a framework for not just facing fear, but mastering it. Let's get started. Fear, in and of itself, isn't the enemy. It's simply an emotion, a signal from your body telling you that something demands your attention. The real problem isn't the fear, it's how we react to it. Too often, men allow fear to drive them into paralysis, indecision, or avoidance. But Stoic philosophy teaches that fear can be a guidepost for growth. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, said it best. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Fear isn't meant to be avoided, it's meant to be understood. Fear's primary function is to protect us from danger. But in the modern world, many of our fears are irrational. They aren't about immediate physical threats, but about uncertainty, failure, or judgment. Understanding this is key to overcoming it. The Stoics remind us, you can't always control the circumstances that provoke fear, but you can control your perception of it. One of the foundational concepts of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, said, "Some things are within our control, and some things are not." This is where we begin our battle with fear. When you break it down, most of our fears come from things outside of our control. Fear of how others will judge us, fear of unpredictable outcomes, fear of external events that might disrupt our lives. The Stoic response to these fears is simple but powerful. If you can't control it, let it go. Stop wasting energy on things you can't change. The only thing you have absolute power over is your own thoughts, actions, and responses. Fear of public speaking? You can't control how people react, but you can control how well you prepare and how you deliver. Fear of failure in your career? You can't control every outcome, but you can control the effort and attitude you bring. Once you internalize this mindset, the grip of fear loosens. You realize that many of the things you're afraid of don't deserve your attention. Shift your focus to what you can control, and the rest becomes noise. Here's where it gets interesting. What if, instead of trying to avoid fear, you intentionally visualize the worst possible outcomes? Sounds counterintuitive, right? But this is what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The Stoics practiced this regularly. They would imagine the worst-case scenarios for any situation, but not to scare themselves. Quite the opposite. By facing these worst fears in their minds, they prepared themselves to remain calm and effective in real-life situations. Imagine you're about to give a critical presentation. Instead of avoiding thoughts of failure, picture it. Imagine the projector failing, your notes getting lost, or the audience being uninterested. How would you handle it? Now ask yourself, could you survive it? Could you adapt? Once you go through this process, your fear diminishes because you've already confronted it mentally. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. One of the worst things you can do when faced with fear is nothing. Fear thrives in inaction. It feeds on uncertainty and doubt. But when you take action, even a small step forward, you begin to dismantle the fear piece by piece. Seneca, another prominent Stoic, said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This is where most of us get trapped. We spend so much time imagining what could go wrong that we never take the steps to find out what could go right. Action, no matter how small, is the antidote to fear. It's not about making grand gestures, it's about building momentum. If you fear approaching someone, start by smiling at a stranger. If you fear launching a business, start by researching your market. The point is to move, and as you do, the fog of fear lifts. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite fear. The Stoics believed that by consistently taking action, fear diminishes over time because you've trained yourself to face it head-on. Another critical aspect of overcoming fear is becoming comfortable with discomfort. The Stoics were masters of this. They believed that by regularly exposing themselves to discomfort, they could toughen their minds and bodies to handle fear and adversity. One of the key practices was voluntary discomfort. This might mean taking cold showers, fasting, or even wearing plain, unremarkable clothes to dull the sting of luxury. The idea here is simple. When you expose yourself to discomfort willingly, you build resilience. You train your mind and body to recognize that discomfort and fear aren't fatal. They're temporary. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." When you face discomfort head-on, fear has less room to take root because you've already taught yourself to endure. Here's something powerful. When you feel fear, don't just react emotionally. Take a step back and examine it logically. Fear often stems from irrational thoughts, exaggerated dangers, or false beliefs. The Stoics would ask themselves, is this fear based on reality, or is it a product of my imagination? Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself to look at things as they truly are, not as his mind makes them out to be. By using reason, you can dismantle fear's illusion. Ask yourself, is the thing I'm afraid of truly dangerous, or am I imagining the worst? What evidence do I have that this fear is valid? If this worst-case scenario happens, what's the real impact? Can I survive it? Often, when you apply logic to your fears, you'll find that they're much smaller than you initially thought. Reason is your best weapon in combating irrational fear. One of the most profound concepts in Stoicism is memento mori, or the reminder of death. This may seem grim, but for the Stoics it was an empowering thought. By remembering that our time here is limited, we strip fear of its power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Fear loses its grip when you understand that life's fleeting nature is exactly what gives it meaning. When you come to terms with your mortality, the smaller fears, fears of judgment, failure, or embarrassment, become insignificant. Memento mori isn't about dwelling on death. It's about letting it sharpen your focus on life. It's a reminder to live fully, to act with purpose, and to not allow fear to rob you of your potential. Fear is a part of life. The Stoics didn't try to eliminate it, but they knew that through discipline, reason, and action, we can control how it affects us. Fear can either hold you back, or it can push you forward. The choice is yours. Remember, focus only on what you can control. Visualize the worst, and prepare yourself mentally. Take action. Fear fades in movement. Embrace discomfort and use reason to challenge irrational thoughts. Lastly, live with the understanding that life is temporary, and fear has no real power over you. So, next time fear grips you, ask yourself, what would a Stoic do? Would they freeze, or would they step forward, fearless in the face of uncertainty? If this resonated with you, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Overcome fear and live your life with Stoic courage.